You ever heard of Dimitri Martin? He's a comedian that I have been watching for many years. I remember one of the last times I saw him on a Netflix special, he had this whole thing talking about how in American culture, things that have the word French in front of them are automatically better. And I wrote down a few just to kind of remember. French fries, French wine, French vanilla, French doors, French poodle, French kiss, French press, like making coffee. And he's right. Anything with the word French in front of it, we automatically, as Americans, that's our way of saying, here's the fancy version or the more fun version. I think that's interesting that we do that. That we make something fancy by saying the word French in front of it, even if France maybe not as even that involved in it. I've heard that French fries are more of an American invention anyway, for example. But that's what we do. I can't think of one exception to the rule where if we're talking about something that's French and we say French, whatever it is, that it's not already the better version of the real thing. Now, what's interesting about that and complicated about that is the political perception that America often has of France. Often, America has this perception that France should be more involved in America's wars as we're policing the world. So you'll see conservatives feel that way, that France should be more supportive when America starts a new war, getting in a new war, policing the world and all this stuff. But at the same time, culturally, we have this admiration of French people. And of course, if you ask Americans, hey, you've never been to Europe? Where would you go in Europe? And you ask 100 people. Many of those people would say, well, I definitely would want to go to France. I want to see the Eiffel Tower. It's a stock American response. We have somehow been brainwashed to believe that France is somehow just better and it's the best part of Europe. Now, I'm not saying that I necessarily feel that way either way. I'm saying it's an unspoken cultural aspect of Americans. There's this cultural admiration for things that are French once they get here to America. Yet at the same time, again, there's complications and political involvements and that sort of thing, but that's not necessarily how everybody feels. In fact, if anything, because of my libertarian perspective, I understand the French perception pretty well, I feel. Because what happens is people compare World War II and what happened there with France and how America helped out France and all that, and then they compare it to modern wars and modern situations, and well, France is not as involved as it needs to be. But World War II was a lot different than military interactions since then. But it's as if Americans treat things the same way. That, well, we're defending our people, we're defending our nation. Are we though? We're fighting these wars like on the other parts of the world. And even with communism, I've made videos about that before, asking how justified was our fear that communism was going to rule us, the Cold War. All the money that was spent, all the lives that were lost in the name of stopping communism. I mean, ultimately, in theory, the Vietnam War was about communism not attacking and infiltrating America as we know it. And so we get involved in that. So there's this criticism toward France for not being more involved and being more supportive of America's involvement, military involvement in the world. But yet we still think France is just so cool and sophisticated. And I even made a video about it recently saying how even though more of my DNA goes back to Spain, I chose to speak French in high school. That was my foreign language. And not only in high school, but also in college. And it's not that anything against Spanish. It's just that French seems like a cool language. It's this secret fascination we have culturally with France. So, I think there's more to be said about this, but I want you to say it in the comments right here.